Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Mrs. Dakota. I'm one of the school counselors in Keystone's guidance department. For some of you, this might be the very first time that you're using Neuro, which is the virtual classroom that they're in today. Many of you are already starting to use the room chat. That's the tool that we'll be using today. If you have questions later on after the presentation, we can certainly chat back and forth and I can answer questions. But to get used to using that room chat feature, if you want to type in there where you are joining me from today. I'm in Pennsylvania. Wow, we have quite a few states represented, another country represented. That's great. Well, again, thank you very much for joining me today. Today, I'm going to talk about the U.S. college entrance exams, how to prep for them, what they are, why you need to take them, why you maybe don't need to take them, and more. The information I'm bringing you today is courtesy of Keystone's guidance department. We have 3 school counselors, myself, Mrs. Krista Hoovler, who's also a high school counselor along with me, and Mrs. Amy Holmes, who typically works with our middle school population. If you ever have any questions for us, you need to get in touch, you can do so by emailing us at guidance@keystonehighschool.com. So on the screen, lots and lots of letters. What are they? What are all these tests? We have the PSAT and the NMSQT, the ACT, the SAT, pre-ACT, the TOEFL, and the PSAT 10. So today I'm going to be letting you know what are these tests? Why do we use them? Why do students take them? When do you take them? Where do you take them? How do you register? How do you prepare for them? And more. Any questions that you have, I'm happy to answer today. So let's start out with the PSAT, NMSQT, and the PSAT 10. These are basically the same test. It's just that students take them at different times for different reasons. And it's the preliminary scholastic aptitude test. So it's a pre-test for students to take in 10th and 11th grades. It's a pre-test for the SAT, which is the scholastic aptitude test. It's typically taken by high school sophomores and juniors. It can be used to predict how well a student's going to do on the SAT, which is one of the 2 U.S. college entrance exams. The test focuses on knowledge, skills, and understanding that research has identified as most important to career success and college readiness as well. It's going to measure verbal reasoning, critical reading, math, and writing, and it's about a 2-hour and 45-minute test. Again, the PSAT 10 is the same as the PSAT. It's just students will take that one in 10th grade. It prepares students to then take the test again in 11th grade. Well, why would they take it again in 11th grade, you might ask yourself. Students who take the test in 11th grade and score well on the test can qualify perhaps for a National Merit Scholarship. So NMSQT stands for National Merit Scholarship Qualifying Test. You take it in 10th grade just to practice. You take it in 11th grade, and it could qualify you to be a National Merit Scholarship finalist and get a scholarship for college. The NMSQT program can award up to a $2,500 college scholarship, and about 1.5 million U.S. high school students take the PSAT every year. They then determine, based on their test scores for the 11th grade population, the semifinalists and the finalists. They choose about 800 finalists that have high scores that qualify for those scholarships. Students are going to get scores in evidence-based writing and reading, as well as a math score and a total score. You can see the score, the numeric reports, between 320 and 1520 for a total score on the PSAT. These tests are typically given in the fall of the year. They're given the same time. And you can't register for these tests online. The way that a Keystone test or a student rather would want to register and take a test, you're going to contact your local public high school in the area that you live and see if their test coordinator, you can start at the district office or maybe talk to an administrator or a school counselor, a test coordinator at the high school, and see if they will allow you to test with their students. When I was a school counselor in a public school, we did allow homeschool students to come in and take the PSAT with our typical student population. So that's how that's done. In the 22-23 school year, the fee for this test is $18, which is not very expensive. The actual SAT and then the other college entrance exam, the ACT, cost a bit more money than that. Some schools, if you are a homeschool student and you're not in their student population, they may charge you a small administration fee as well. But typically the fee for this test is very, very low. You also get to see your answers. You get your answers sent to you. So you can see on the PSAT, if you get a question wrong, you can see what the right answer was compared to, maybe your incorrect answer. That's another valuable, reason to take the PSAT 10 or to take it in your junior year, because you can then know what you got wrong and know areas to improve. Daniel, do you need a couple minutes? You're still taking notes? I'm also recording this, and I'll be happy to send you a copy of the recording, Daniel, as well as the PowerPoint. So if, don't feel like you have to take a whole ton of notes. This will also be, everybody should have the Keystone Guidance course in their online homeroom in Brightspace. This recording and this information will also be put in the course. So you'll have it on demand whenever you need it in the Keystone Guidance course. So the SAT, Scholastic Aptitude Test. It's been around a long time. I took it in order to be admissible for college. It's accepted by all colleges and universities in the US, as is the ACT, which is the other test. Decades ago, the kids on the East Coast of the US took the SAT, kids kind of on the West Coast of the US took the ACT, and not all colleges accepted both tests. That's no longer the policy. All colleges and universities accept both the SAT and the ACT. They also used to be very different tests, but they've gotten much more similar. The SAT, it's the original college entrance exam. It measures both what students are currently learning in high school and what they'll need to succeed in college. So it'll have some things that you've seen in your courses, and it may have some other things that you have not seen in a high school course. It tests reading, writing, and math, and it's about a 3-hour test. You get 2 scores, a reading, writing score, and then you get a math score, and they're combined for a total score that's going to be somewhere between 400 and 1,600. The cost for the test currently is $60, and you will register to take this test. You'll do that online at thecollegeboard.org. So unlike the PSAT, where you've got to take it at a local school, the SAT, you will create an account on the College Board website. You will register. You'll put your zip code in, your town, your zip code, where you live, and the tests, dates, and times, and the schools that they're going to be offered at in your local area will appear, and then you can choose one that works best for you. This test is offered multiple times a year, 7 times a year. They also have a feature called Score Choice. You can choose which scores you want to send to colleges by test date. So if you take the test in your junior year and you didn't score as well as you wanted to, and then you study and you do some preparation work and you take it again in the beginning of your senior year, you don't have to send all the scores for the test to colleges and universities. You can send your best test scores. So that's a nice feature that the College Board allows around this test. So the SAT, the Scholastic Aptitude Test, has the PSAT. The ACT, which is that other college entrance exam, they have the pre-ACT. So this is a curriculum-based test, covers material taught in classrooms. It's going to be shorter and a little bit easier than the ACT. So it's going to get students ready for that ACT. It's going to measure what students have learned and how well they use that knowledge. Typically, they take this in 10th grade, and then they can take it again in 11th grade to prepare to take the ACT later on. It's got 4 sections: English, reading, math, and science. Notice no science category for the PSAT or the SAT. That's the big difference. The ACT tests science as a separate category. So the pre-ACT is kind of going to predict how a student's going to do when they take that ACT. It lets them become familiar with the ACT. It's given in brick and mortar high schools. Again, there is no set test date or time. It can be administered by high schools anytime between September 1st and June 1st. If you're interested in taking it as a Keystone student, again, you're going to have to reach out to the school, local high schools in your area, see if they're giving it, and then, connect with a test coordinator to pay for the test and sign up to take it with that school's students. So the pre-SAT is going to get us ready for, or pre-ACT is going to get us ready for the ACT. Test very much like the SAT, but it has a science section. So if you're a student planning to major in science, you have an aptitude for science, you might want to consider taking the ACT instead of the SAT. You're going to register for this online. You're going to choose one of the high schools in your local area that's not too far away, that's on one of the test dates, and that's how you're going to take the test. If you want to take the test with writing, both the SAT and ACT have an optional essay section. You can look at the colleges you're planning to apply to see if you need to take either of these tests with writing. One reason a college may want you to do that is because they know the writing samples that you are giving them through these tests are your work. They might also ask for a college essay, and although you are supposed to submit your own work, they don't have any guarantees that that is your work. At the SAT and the ACT, if you take those tests with writing, the colleges know that that is your original work. The scoring is a little bit different. Each section on the ACT is going to be scored between a 1 and a 36. They also give a composite score. You can, again, just like the SAT, choose the score choice option and decide which colleges see which scores. The writing is separate on both of these tests. It'll be a separate score for writing. Once you've taken the full ACT, you can also, if you take it again, you can retake just certain sections, unlike the SAT. So there are some subtle differences. The big takeaway, the big difference would be the science section that's available on the ACT. Angela, if you want to take either of those tests with writing, with the essay portion, it's optional on both tests. You have to sign up for that. And as you can see on the screen, if you take the ACT with writing, it's going to make the test longer, and it's also you're going to incur an additional fee. There may be writing, short answer and things like that on the other sections of the test, but this is specifically if you're taking it with the essay portion. Very important, if you are planning to take either of these tests, and we'll talk about why maybe you should take them and why you shouldn't in a little bit, but if you are planning to take one, you want to make sure that you have adequate time to prep for the test. We offer our students access to a program called Choices 360. Information on how to access Choices 360 is in that Keystone Guidance course that's in your online homeroom in the Brightspace Learning platform. You sign up for Choices 360 and they have a test prep section in there that you have complete access to, and it will prep you for either test. You can also use Khan Academy. The College Board has lots and lots of resources. There are other test prep companies out there, and people, in your local area here in the US, there are plenty local people. I live in the central part of Pennsylvania, and we have, different companies and different educators that run test prep groups, like live test tutoring for the SAT and the ACT throughout the school year for students. So it's not hard to find test prep that you either have to pay for or that's free, but you want to make sure you have at least, I would say, 6 months, 3 months, whatever you can prep. But I'm telling students, you want to do your best. And you also want to do things that you can to alleviate any test anxiety. So if you do have test anxiety, you can contact us in guidance, and we can give you some tips and tricks around alleviating that test anxiety. The College Board that sponsors the SAT, they do report that 20 hours of practice, so 20 hours of prep work before taking the test was associated with about an average 100-point increase between students who took the PSAT and the SAT. So you take the PSAT, minimum of 20 hours of practice, you could boost your scores by 100 points. So another worthwhile reason to make sure you have adequate time to prep. Again, 2 to 3 months before your test date, I'm telling students, let's really do it well and try to give yourself 6 months. That way you can spread it out and you're not just cramming for the test at the last minute. So the TOEFL, this is a test for English language learners. It's not an aptitude test or an entrance exam, test of English as a foreign language. So many Keystone students who come to us from countries outside the US who are earning a US high school diploma, sometimes that Keystone diploma, that is enough to exempt you from taking the TOEFL, but not for every college or university. I have written letters for Keystone students in their senior year, letting them know all the work that the student is doing in English, and talking with admissions people, and that student has been exempted from taking the TOEFL. However, it doesn't work with every college or university. So it's for students who are not native English speakers. It's administered via the internet. It's reading, listening, speaking, and writing. More than 10,000 colleges and universities worldwide request TOEFL scores and accept TOEFL scores. Each college and university sets its own standard for the score that they will accept. So that is something that if you are an English language learner and you do have to take the TOEFL, will have to work out what is an acceptable score with the colleges and universities you're planning to attend. Again, no passing or failing test score. It's just set by the college. The fee also varies. It's anywhere between 160 and 250 US dollars, depending on where you're taking it. It's a 4-hour test, and students can take the test as many times as they need to in order to get the score that they want to. If you have any questions about that, you'll see on the screen, you register online and you take it online. So if you have questions about that, feel free to email me or the other counselors at guidance@keystonehighschool.com, and we can help you navigate through the TOEFL. So lots of information and lots of tests. Again, the registration process. The ACT is the college entrance exam. You're going to register online and take it at a local school in your area, local high school in your area. The SAT, you're going to register at the College Board. You're going to take that at a local school in your area. You're going to register online. The list of available test dates and places to take the test are going to pop up magically in front of you in your account, and you'll pay online. TOEFL for English language learners, you're going to register online. The PSAT and the pre-ACT, You have to contact a local school. Those are the practice tests. Fee waivers. These are expensive tests, and the whole college application process can be very expensive. The tests are $60 to $80. You have to take it a couple times. You're racking up a bit of a bill. It costs an application fee for every college you apply to, anywhere from some are free rather. I've seen application fees as high as $80 or $85. So, it's a little bit more money there. So to help students offset some of the costs, we do have fee waivers. There are financial eligibility requirements for those. If you think you might be eligible for a fee waiver, you can contact us in guidance and we can let you know. Students who would be eligible to participate in the National School Lunch Program, students who are enrolled in programs like Upward Bound or TRIO, families who receive any kind of public assistance or federally subsidized public housing, or if we have any independent students who are deemed to be wards of the state. Those are the students that would be eligible for fee waivers. And we can certainly help you out with that if you are one of those students. So even though you don't apply to college until you are a senior in high school, there is a timeline to get ready. So this is just the general timeline for college-bound high school students. In 9th grade, you want to start to think about that PSAT or the pre-ACT and taking it as a 10th grade student. So you can lay the groundwork and contact high schools in your area to see when they're giving it and if you'd be allowed to test. So that's what you want to do in 9th grade. You can also check out the Keystone Guidance course, start looking at the Choices 360 program, and familiarize yourself with that test prep materials. During the summer between 9th and 10th grade, that's when you really want to lock down the test date. Schools are going to know in advance when they're testing their students and whether or not you will be allowed to test with their student population. The summer between 10th and 11th grade, well, actually 10th grade, you're going to take the tests. Then you can register again to take the PSAT. You're going to want to take that PSAT, if that's the test you're electing to take, as an 11th grader, because that's when you could be potentially eligible for one of the scholarships through the National Merit Scholarship Program. In 11th grade, in the fall, that's that PSAT. You're going to prep, and you can start to take the SAT or ACT in the spring of junior year. That's when we're going to potentially start to also do college visits, and then maybe continue those over the summer. The reason you're going to want to start taking the test in the spring of 11th grade, it's going to give you time, if you need to prep to take the tests again to raise your score. So PSAT in the fall of junior year, prep over the winter, go online, take either the SAT or the ACT in the spring, see how your scores are, and then you'll know if you have any work to do to retake the test in the fall. 12th grade, prep over the summer if needed, retest in early fall, and then apply to college. So Angela's saying, I'm in 12th grade right now. When I attended public school, I'm not sure if I took any of those pre-tests or anything. I'm not sure if I should take the ACT or the SAT. Angela, I'm going to cover why it's a good idea to take the test and why it's maybe not a great idea to take the test in a little bit. And then if I don't answer your questions, we can always revisit this before we're done here today. So here are the test dates. August through June for the SAT. You can see the registration deadlines. I don't know why they do this. They always have a registration deadline. Then they have a late registration deadline that they charge you another fee if you register by the late deadline. And then the deadline to change, and like if you decide whether or not you want to send your scores or you have to change anything on your ticket or things like that. I wish they just had one deadline and they don't charge. If they can take students' registrations by that late deadline, just take them by that deadline and don't charge students more money, but they do. So be aware of the registration deadline or you will incur an additional fee. The dates are a little bit different for international students. I'm not sure if you can see it on the screen, but they are also starting to give the digital online test for the SAT to international students in the spring and early summer next year. It is a little bit different registration process. Students who need to take the digital SAT are allowed to borrow a device from the College Board. They can request a device during their registration process and allow for international shipping. The ACT test dates run from September through July, so a little bit different. Registration deadline again, and then a late registration deadline. They charge you additional fee for that. And no test centers scheduled in New York for the July test date. So your last test date for New York would be that June test date. The ACT also gives international tests. Just like the international SAT, the ACT is a little bit different. So students will want to go to act.org and just follow the process to register as an international student. Now, I did mention there might be a reason why you don't want to take either the ACT or the SAT. So the COVID-19 pandemic through many schools, not really Keystone because we just kept rolling right along in our online format, but through many, many schools and colleges, it was kind of chaotic because the SAT and ACT test dates had to be suspended for a whole population of students who were in the college application process or starting the college application process. Because of that, colleges and universities suspended their use of the SAT and ACT during COVID, during that time when students couldn't physically take the test. While they were admitting students without SAT and ACT scores, they kind of realized, maybe there are reasons why we don't want to require these tests. Some people had always felt that there were systemic reasons why the tests weren't necessarily a good measure of student aptitude or why they weren't the best measure of student aptitude. A lot of people always feel that the high school transcript, and in many cases in the admissions decision, the high school transcript is the most important factor. So currently where we are, about 1,700 colleges currently do not require either test for admission for the fall of 2023. So that's this year's seniors. But many schools are talking about reinstituting the test. I know the University of North Carolina colleges have reinstituted the test. And the testing agencies, the ACT and the College Board, as you can imagine, are putting a lot of pressure on the colleges to start requiring these tests again. So at this point, based on some really good information that I got from a webinar I attended where it was all college admissions officers talking about the admissions process, I'm recommending that if you're a good test taker and you do have that time to devote, I'd say at least 3 months to prepping for the tests, you should do so. You should take the ACT or the SAT. At the very least, you will have a good score, and that will validate your Keystone transcript. It may even exceed your Keystone transcript. You may be a great test taker, and you may get a great score that isn't reflected in all of your Keystone courses. But if you think for any reason the test is going to detract from your Keystone transcript in any way, I'm not recommending you to take the test. They're expensive and time consuming, and you may end up canceling your test scores if you had a bad day and a bad test experience. So again, this recommendation, I've never made this one before, but I'm doing so based on information I received from admissions officers in that webinar that I attended. So they were letting me know that, in their opinion, the high school transcript and those supporting letters of recommendation and information like that really gives them what they need to know, that the test scores can enhance if the scores are really, really good, but they don't want the test scores to detract from a student. So that's my advice. And I open it up to questions now. So Rama's asking, does the ACT or SAT automatically go on your transcript when you take it, or can you choose? So a couple years ago, pre-COVID, when we had lots and lots of students, every test date, Keystone had, 50 or 60 students taking the test, and we would get their scores. We would put them on the Keystone transcript. There is a spot for us to record them. Currently, we've had almost no students taking the tests. So we've gotten out of the habit of putting them on, and I've gotten into the habit about asking students. So at this point, we are not automatically putting them on, because you may cancel a score later on or not want a score sent to a college. And if you don't communicate that to us, it could end up on your transcript and they would see it. So as of right now, we're not putting the test scores on automatically. You can contact us and let us know to do so. But that's a very good question. So if a US student is overseas, can you travel back to the US to take the PSAT in 11th grade? Yes, you could certainly do that. You could certainly, as a US student, come back and take the PSAT in 11th grade to see if you qualify. There is no way really to apply for that NMSQT scholarship. You are just put in the pool of all the test takers, and then it's based on your scores. They kind of whittle it down, to semifinalists and then finalists, and then they determine where the cutoff is. And because there are different students taking the test every year, the scores are going to look a little bit differently on where they have the cutoff. So Angela, students who are enrolled in the final courses needed for graduation in 12th grade, those are the students who can apply to college. Yes, you can apply without having taken it yet. You'll want to be cognizant of any application deadlines. And if the SAT or the ACT is a requirement for applying, if you need to submit those scores in order to be considered admissible, you're going to want to take get an early test date in before the application deadline. So you can take a look at your unofficial transcript. Parents, support persons, guardians, they have access to something called the Keystone Support app. Your unofficial transcript is located in that support app anytime. If you don't have access to that or don't have access to a copy, you can email guidance on the screen at keystonehighschool.com so that we can get you a copy of your unofficial transcript. Or you can email our registrars at registrar@keystonehighschool.com. You can contact student support. They can get it to you. So there are lots of different ways to get a copy of your unofficial transcript. So taking the SAT multiple times won't hurt you because you don't have to send those low test scores. You can choose which test scores to send to colleges. So if you want to take it multiple times, you can. It's expensive to take it multiple times. Same for the ACT. They have that score report as well, or that, the way you report your scores. Well, I think it depends on how many test dates there are. I've seen students take both tests 4 times, probably not more than 4. I don't think there's a limit to how many times you can take it. No, you can send which scores you can choose which scores to send them. I should caveat that some colleges require students to send every single test score. And then what the college will do, so for the SAT, you have like a reading writing score and you have a math score. They'll take your highest math and your highest reading writing score and combine those for your total. So college has kind of figured out that students could pick and choose their scores. So then they got a little bit tricky and they said, okay, we're going to require students to send us every single score from every test date. You register online and you look at the test dates, figure out what works for you, figure out what local school is giving it. So you'll either, if you have an aptitude for science, I'm recommending the ACT. That'll boost your science score will be solid, and it'll boost your composite score, which is kind of like an average score that they have for the ACT. SAT, they're basically the same test now. They didn't used to be configured the same way, but they are now. Really only that science component is the difference between the two. And you'll register online for both. You pay online, you decide where you want to take it, which local schools in your area are giving the test, and that's how you do it. And if anybody has more questions than I'm able to answer today, definitely email us at guidance. You can set up an appointment and we can have our own, half-hour conversation about your particular situation. You can meet with me or Mrs. Hoovler, who is actually here in the webinar today. She is a new Keystone counselor. She's new to Keystone, but not new to counseling. And she's also one of our high school counselors. Yes, you can certainly take the SAT and ACT without the pretest. Absolutely. The pretest is beneficial because you get to see which questions you answered incorrectly, and it's a practice test. It preps you for knowing what to expect on the test date. You're going to be in those testing conditions, and students who have, they get nervous or have any anxiety around testing, something called exposure therapy, where you put yourself in the situation and over time you get less apprehensive about it because you know what to expect. So taking the test as a pretest can sometimes alleviate being nervous or anxious around taking it. Because, these can be, they're not so much anymore, but they're always considered high stakes, important tests. So, we want to make sure students feel comfortable when they're testing. No, I don't have any other webinars about that, but like I said, if you want to talk in depth about prepping for the ACT or SAT, you can meet with me or Mrs. Hoovler, and we can kind of go over our resources and make sure that you know how to get access to those. You should all have a course called the Keystone Guidance course in your online homeroom. That's where you can find that Choices 360 module, and that unit on Choices 360. It's going to tell you how to register, how to set up your account, and within Choices 360, you'll find the test prep module, and you have access to all of it. That's just, a benefit to being a Keystone student. You don't have to pay for outside test prep materials. Does anybody else have any other questions around any of these tests? I know it's a lot of information. Again, I am recording this session, so you can, email us at guidance and we can make sure that you have access to the recording if you need to go back over any of the information. There is also in that Keystone Guidance course information about the college application process. We have our college application toolkit, which I think is about 20 pages long, which gives you a lot of information about the college application timeline and exactly what you need to do. So if a college doesn't require either test, so Angela, the nice thing is these tests are only needed to apply for your 4-year undergraduate or bachelor's degree. If you want to go on and go to get your master's degree, which would be you get that 4-year undergraduate, 4-year, it's or called a bachelor's degree. So that'd be that 4-year degree. If you want to go on and get your master's degree, you don't have to take the SAT. Your eligibility to go on is going to be based on successfully completing that 4-year college undergraduate degree. So these are just for that initial college entrance. So you can reach us. It should be on the screen at guidance@keystonehighschool.com. Let's see if I can type. There, I put it in the chat as well. Well, I'm glad that you are finding it informative. We do have some other webinars coming up. Let me see. Next Tuesday at 2, I'm going to go over the common application and the college application process. And then the following Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to talk a little bit about financial aid and the FAFSA. That's the free application for federal student aid for students here in the U.S. So we're going to get all our college-related stuff, information out of the way, kind of early in the school year, so our students have access to what they need. Good information not only for our current seniors, but also for those juniors who are going to be going through the college application process this time next year. We're hoping to have more webinars coming up around topics like post-high school plans that involve things other than college, apprenticeships, internships, taking a gap year, and things like that. So you can also look for more information to be posted about other webinars around other post-high school plans. I think those links, it's going to be the same link. They're going to be in the same room. And I think Mrs. Hoovler, Mrs. Holmes is also here. She's our other school counselor. I think they're in the blog. Let me see if I can access. I should know since there are webinars, but I think our friend Natalie Bond has been helping us out by publicizing them. And if you go to Keystone School here, let me see, I can. All right, so that, I don't know why I posted twice, but it did. So that is the link to the blog, the Live While Learning Collective, which is the blog that we put out through the Keystone School. If you click on that link, it's going to, the first things that come up are the information about the financial aid and the FAFSA session. So as well as the live session about the college application information. We also, I'm going to do a little commercial for our live mental health awareness session on Thursday at 2 p.m. That information is on the blog as well. We like to hold a question and answer session for all our Keystone students just around common mental health topics. We know mental health suffered during the COVID pandemic. Mrs. Holmes was nice enough to put the link in there for the mental health session. That is 2 p.m. Eastern this Thursday. And you can sign up there and talk with other students. We kind of run it like an informal group. You can use a microphone in that one, or you can use the chat. And you can talk with other students as well as Natalie Bond, who's a student success advisor, me, Mrs. Holmes, and Mrs. Hoovler around just, common mental health topics and staying mentally healthy. Are there any other questions around the tests for today? All right. Well, I thank everyone for attending today. If you'd like a copy of the recording, email us at guidance@keystonehighschool.com. If you would like to set up an appointment If you're a parent and you want your student and yourself to meet with one of us, or if you're a student and you'd like to meet with a school counselor, please email us at guidance. We're more than happy to set up any one-on-one appointments that are needed. And please drop in on the other sessions, especially that mental health session on Thursday at 2 p.m. It's a lot of fun. You can connect with other students, and we all have a good time, talking about staying mentally healthy on our planet at this time. Not always easy to do, but I thank you again very much for attending today.